Well, it's been a few months since my last story, and all I can say is thank you very much for all the kind comments on that one. This one, though, is a little bit different. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, thank you very much to everyone who took part on this one. This story is called Dream Relationship. Every year, thousands of guys move here to Bangkok, Thailand, call it home. It's an eye-opener for them. The energy, the people, the smells, the smiles, the poverty, the super wealthy, the seeming lack of a logical system. Some of them just can't handle it. They leave after a few weeks, angry, bitter, muttering under their breath as they head for the airport. They couldn't adapt. Maybe they were used to lording it over the locals when they came here on holiday, flashing the cash. Thailand will not adapt to you. You've got to learn to go with the flow, and those first few months when you get here, it's just like an examination, testing your tolerance, your patience. And if you fail, Thailand will chew you up and spit you out like you're just another piece of garbage. I've been waiting years to tell people about this. I never get over what happened to Andy. Never forgive myself, you know. What a way to go. I always thought this would be a story worth telling sometime in the future. Maybe to my kids, or put pen to paper. The kind of story that would act as a deterrent to all those who think the grass is always greener over in Thailand. My name's Lazy Eye Jason, and this is a tale of how all is not what it seems in the land of smiles. It's September 2010, and me and my best mate Andy took a 2-week trip to Thailand. It was his first time. I've been going twice a year since about '89. I showed him all the usual sights, the temples, the markets, the bars, the riverboat. We went to the Muay Thai one night. I partied on Soi Cowboy most nights, but Andy came once, wasn't his cup of tea. He preferred the little markets around the hotel. Everything about this trip was perfect, except once we got caught out by the Grand Palace is closed scam. It was hilarious. We ended up doing a runner from the tuk-tuk at the traffic lights. Brilliant. We were laughing as we were running. Great memories. We had intended to go to Koh Samui, but it was rainy season. And anyway, Andy got sidetracked. Andy fell in love with this girl selling fruit in a market near the hotel. Jet, her name was. We were staying round the corner from Victory Monument. He was crazy about her, besotted. She would smile with her eyes, is what he used to say. He said she was about 30, but I don't know. I never met her, I never spoke to her. I had a thing going on with this girl called Lek from Soi Cowboy. She was a cashier. I know what you're thinking. I'd met her on a couple of previous trips. Just a casual thing, you know. I was never one for long distance relationships. And there's a saying, isn't there? Don't have any ties in Thailand. Andy, on the other hand, he was always a loser back in England with the girls. They'd take the piss out of him because he was too polite or shy. So I'm not surprised he fell in love on his first trip to Thailand. Andy was the best mate I ever had. He wouldn't harm anyone. An absolute diamond he was. We grew up together, went to school together in South London. He was a smart kid as well. He started reading from the age of like 6, 7. Famous 5, Secret 7, encyclopedias, all that kind of thing. He was well into Star Trek. He loved The Cure as well. I was always trying to get him to come out of Thailand, open his eyes, get him laid. Not that I was a great example though. I've had 1 or 2 girlfriends here over the years, but had my heart broken just like everyone else. Never could find the right girl. They all had dodgy backgrounds, that was the problem. But I always wanted to travel, you know, see the world, get out there. London was just so boring. So I went to college, I studied Southeast Asian culture, learned how to write. was a bit like Andy in some ways, lonely, introverted. Always felt like I had to prove something to myself, that I could accomplish a goal, find the right girl, you know. I did find the right girl once, but her boyfriend smashed me in the face with a baseball bat in Soi 33. That's why they call me Lazy Eye Jason. So this girl Lek from Soi Cowboy, I put her up in a condo when I left because I wanted her to be a bit more comfortable, you know. I'd seen the place she'd been staying at with her friends, 3 of them sleeping on the floor with a fan. So I thought it was the least I could do because she had taken enough sick days off to be with me every time I come over. And I was planning to come back anyway in a couple of months, so I wouldn't need to book a hotel. Anyway, we flew back to London via Dubai. Andy was moody all the way back. Heathrow Airport was absolute chaos. Baggage staff on strike, crowds of people everywhere. They lost his suitcase, which really pissed him off even more. I spoke to Andy a few days later. He was depressed as hell, calling Jet all the time, texting her. He obviously missed her. Andy, by the way, he was a mobile DJ. He loved his job, but he never socialised in his own time. Instead, he just watched other people socialising and getting pissed and dancing while he got paid for it. All his other time was spent reading science fiction books or watching horror films. He could put you to sleep explaining the plot of some of those stories. He did live in a bit of a fantasy world, I suppose, but he's a mate, so what can you do? My job? I was a freelance travel writer, getting to travel once or twice a month around Europe, mostly France, Portugal, Italy, Germany. I know it sounds glamorous, but I only got paid per job, which was okay, but I would have loved to have gone further afield and got paid for it, like Hong Kong or Thailand. So one day I'm in Germany working. Andy calls me up and says Jep's gone missing. She hasn't returned his calls or texts for 3 days. So I said, calm down, mate, calm down. And another thing, he's been reading a website where guys send in their stories about getting ripped off by Thai women, scamming, and he thinks that's what Jep's doing. He said they'd be making plans to move to an island, bringing his savings over and reinventing himself as some kind of horror fiction writer. Jep was a bit reluctant, so they had a bit of an argument, and she hasn't returned his calls or texts for 3 days. I said, did you give her any money? He said, no, I swear I didn't give her 1 penny. I didn't even sleep with her. And you know what, when he told me that, I believed him because he was always very naive, you know, never had a relationship. Even after we left school, I don't remember him with one girlfriend. He always did his own thing. I also told him to stop reading those websites, you know, all the stories, winding himself up. Those stories are all bullshit, I told him. So I'm off to Bangkok again. I'm going to see Lek, catch up with a few mates I've known over the years, English teachers, bar owners, wheeler dealer types, the creme de la creme of the Bangkok foreign expat world. Andy, of course, tells me to check up on Jet. He even called up the hotel where we stayed at before. He asked them to go down the market and look for her. So I get to the condo and Lek's got 2 of her mates staying there. The place stinks of booze and she'd given up working at the bar. This pissed me off because I hadn't slept. I just wanted to get into bed and have a few hours sleep. So I checked into a hotel down the road. So the next day, me and Lek went to the market. It was boiling hot. I was jet lagged. And if you've ever been to Victory Monument, you'll know just how busy it is. It's a big roundabout with a monument in the middle. There's a bus station in each corner and there's also loads of markets scattered around. Lek did ask a couple of people about Jep and a fruit stall. No one knew what she was talking about. We just gave up and left. It was just too hot. I thought, well, I'll come back in a few days when I feel a bit better and have a good look around. So I got back to the hotel, had a couple of hours sleep. I called Andy. I said, look, I need a few more details about Jep. What's her background? What kind of girl is she? What's her education? Is she rich? Is she poor? Then I said, can you send me a photo? And it turns out his camera was in the suitcase that the airport lost. He got 200 quid compensation for that, and that really pissed him off. So I thought, we're going to need some help. I called up my mate Pete. He's been here for years, and I remember he used to talk about a private detective guy that he knew. So I said to Andy, look, I'm going to talk to Pete, see if we can get a private detective on the case. Could be useful, might get a few more clues, might even find her safe and sound. So I met Pete, gave him the full story, and he told me any private detective would want at least 2 to 3 grand. That's English money. But those types of guys only do the Bargirl jobs, you know, missing girls. Guys who have gone back to their own countries, wondering what their holiday girlfriends are up to. They get in touch with this private detective guy, and he goes to the bars to look for them. Then Pete said, look at it this way. A mystery girl with a fruit stall, in a market, in a place where foreigners don't really go. This ain't no straightforward Bargirl search. This private detective is probably going to want a bit more money to go sniffing around those kind of areas, because being a foreigner, he's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I said to Pete, all right, set up a meet with this guy. I'll talk to him, see what the score is, give him the full story, and then we'll take it from there. And in the meantime, I will play detective. I will go to Victory Monument and go sniffing around. So I thought to myself, if I'm going to play private detective, I better get myself out there and start detecting. Where the fuck do I start? So I asked Andy, I said, where's this market? Which part of Victory Monument is it? He says, oh, it's in the corner. So I'm walking around and there's loads of markets. I asked a couple of guys, I asked a woman. Then I remember Andy telling me that he had noodles on a boat nearby. I found the canal, no boats, definitely no noodles. I need to get some more advice. I can't just go barging around these places looking for something that might not even exist, or if it does, I just can't find it. I'm a foreigner, I look suspicious. So I met up with this detective guy that Pete knows, a Canadian bloke, and I'm telling him my story, you know, all the problems I'm having trying to play detective. I'm sitting there explaining my case, and he's just nodding. He's not giving me any advice or hints or tips. And he said, the kind of place where you're looking, it's like no man's land. You can't exactly blend in. So one night I've had a few beers with Pete. I'm about to call it a night, and the phone rings. It's Lek. She sounds terrible. She says, oh, come to the condo. Something's happened and I really need to see you. So I jump in a taxi, get to the condo, and I didn't expect to find what I found. Lek was crying, sitting on the sofa. Her friend's trying to clean up. The place has been completely turned over, ransacked. TV gone, DVD gone. Microwave was even gone. And then she says to me she had over 200,000 baht gambling debts to the guys at the bar. They'd come to see if there was any money around because they knew I had come to Bangkok. One of Lek's mates probably told them again. Anyway, I said, how did they get in? She says, oh, they phoned up, promised me another loan and they'll come and give it to me, so I let them in. So after all, it was lucky that I did go to the hotel when I got there the first day, because they could have had my cash. Why did Lek really leave the bar? She said it was because they weren't doing much business and they couldn't afford to pay her. I thought, well, maybe she's done a runner owing the money. The guys have found out where she lives, tricked their way in, promising another loan, and this has happened. They obviously know about me, thought I'd be there. One of Lek's mates at the bar probably told them. So for me, the first thing I've got to do is get another hotel. I've got to stay on my toes because those kind of guys from the bars don't fuck around, and it's not going to be very difficult to find me. Obviously I can't tell Andy what's happened. he sent me a message saying he's going to send me £3,500 Western Union in the next couple of days so we can get this private detective on the case. So I called Pete and I said, look, I need a Thai private eye to help me, someone local. I don't want any of these foreign PIs who probably aren't even qualified. They just sit around in bars looking for missing bar girls. That's why I didn't want to give them any money in the first place. Anyway, I got hold of this Thai guy, Mac, seasoned private eye apparently. He said he'll go around Victory Monument, look in the markets, get in with the locals and hopefully get back to me with something positive. I didn't tell Andy that I didn't put the Canadian private eye on the case because that will just complicate things and make him even more paranoid. He's desperate to get to Bangkok. So I'll get back to the hotel. Lex disappeared, her bag's gone, her makeup's gone, her toothbrush is gone. I went down the lobby. I said, when did she leave? And they said, oh, 10 minutes ago she walked off up the road with a tall Thai guy. So I'm thinking, if it's just been 10 minutes, then maybe they haven't got very far. So I'm walking around the streets. I'm going crazy, I'm tired, I've had a few beers. Then I get to the railway station and I thought I actually saw her on the train. I know it's crazy. So I'm running down the track trying to catch the eye of who I thought was Lex. And of course, no joy. I'm starting to see things. So now I've got to change hotels again. Lex gone. Do I really care? Do I really want to get in this deep with a girl from a bar? I always said, don't have any ties in Thailand. Don't throw your heart and your emotions at these girls. But in a way, I feel I have to help because she's got no one else. So the next night, I took a walk around some of the bar areas, met up with a couple of old mates I've known for years. I told them, keep an eye out for me, go in some of the bars. I didn't give them the full story, but they did say they would do whatever it takes to help because that's what friends are for. There's no way I can go into any bars looking for Lex because I can't show my face. They know what I look like. If she's not there, they'd probably kick the shit out of me. And if she is, they would also kick the shit out of me and probably force me to go back to my hotel and give them my cash. Next day, Mac phones me. He says, I've got some really interesting news for you and it will cost you 20,000 baht to find out. Can we meet? And he tells me this really bizarre story. He didn't find Jep, he didn't find a fruit stall, but he did meet the Indian guy who rents out the stalls. Paid him to look for his records. No Jep in any recent records, but there is a Jep of a similar age from 12 years before. She had a fruit stall. Apparently, she went missing after going on a date with a Danish guy and she was really in love. Police got involved, no body was found, and the Danish bloke committed suicide before the cops could talk to him. So we've hit a bit of a dead end on this one and I've got to somehow explain this story to Andy. So I paid Mac his money, got on Google, looked for a story about a girl in a market and a Danish guy, couldn't find anything. I thought about going to the cops and pretending I was a Danish cop on the case, but that would be ridiculous. Anyway, I get a call. It's a number I don't recognise and it's Andy. He's arrived in Bangkok. He says, oh, I didn't hear from you for 16 hours and I wonder what was going on. He wants to meet at his hotel near Victory Monument. He tried checking into the same hotel we stayed at, but they were full. As soon as I've hung up the phone to Andy, Matt calls me and he says, I think you might be interested in another missing piece of this jigsaw. It will cost you 20,000 baht to find out. I said, all right, we'll meet, all three of us, me, you and Andy, in the lobby of his hotel in 3 hours' time. So I turn up at the hotel, I see Andy standing outside smoking. He's not a smoker, but maybe the stress has driven him to it. Mac turns up. We're trying to explain the story to Andy, and he's crying. He's already been up the market around Victory Monument looking for Jet. Obviously, he never found her. And then he turns to me and says, "This is all your fault. I gave you £3,500 and you came up with nothing." And I said, "Did you just hear what we tried to tell you?" So Andy steps onto the pavement and he trips over, falls into the road, and suddenly this bus comes over and runs straight over him. It happened just like that. And I'm standing there in shock. Andy's dead instantly. This did not just happen, surely. A year later, Andy's mum phones me, which I thought was weird because she blamed me for everything that happened to him. Anyway, she said the airline returned his suitcase that he lost on the first trip, and that she'd gone through it, found his camera and looked at some of the photos. She sent me this one photo and said there was something strange about it and it was freaking her out. She said, "Look closely and you'll see it." So I'm looking at this picture and yeah, there was something weird about it, but I'm not into all that supernatural stuff. I just put it down to one of Andy's fantasies. As for Lek, well, I never saw her again, nor did anyone else. She disappeared. The guys at the club she owed money to, they went to her village and threatened her family, but it was like she disappeared off the face of the earth. I tell you what though, all that running around I was doing, playing detective, I could have a bit of that. I actually enjoyed that. That will give me a good excuse to tie up a few loose ends, you know, get to the bottom of all this shit. I owe it to Andy, to Lek, to myself, to get out there and start doing some detecting. But where the fuck do I start?